Okay, today we're going to be talking about the human form. If you look over here, I already have one inked, and you see the spine line was drawn in first. Even when you're drawing someone who is straight up and straight down, there's still a natural lilting to the body that occurs that you need to be able to get, and you can't get it unless you draw that spine line in. In this case, I'm having him look down at his toes, seeing if his shoes are tied. And he has that bit of curve right there. Notice I blocked it in with three-dimensional shapes, and we have the solenoid shapes here for the arms. I used ball joints for the shoulders, for the elbows, for the kneecaps. Anywhere that there's a pivot point, I used a ball joint to represent that. It helps to drop those in early because then you know where your actual proportions are going to be, how long the leg is compared to how long the torso is. The torso should be just a little bit shorter than the length of the leg. That is typical for males. Sometimes that's reverse for females, but it's generally the correct way to go about it. If you're blocking in hips on the male character versus the female, sometimes the hips are slightly wider on the female, sometimes the shoulders are slightly wider on the male. Again, those are stereotypical, not necessarily accurate to the individual you might be trying to draw. So you have to know the difference between the two there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and draw this live a few times so that you can watch this process. I'm going to start each time with just a simple shape, and I have a faint outline of the spine already, and I'm going to kind of continue through that. And I just want you to watch how I treat the three-dimensional shapes so that you can mimic that. It doesn't have to be super well thought out. You're just blocking in the shoulders first. Any kind of pivot lines. I might go through, and before I do the rest of the arms, I'm going to get down to the elbows here. I'm going to stop right there. Then we're going to block in the hips. And for the hips, since we're tilting, forward, I'm going to tilt the hips a little bit. The hips are raised up in this side because I'm going to bring this leg up, this far leg. Okay, same thing on this side. Bring the leg down to a pivot point right about there. Okay, now I'm going to go back to these arms and finish them out since I have the hips in. Ball joint for the hand. For the hand, you don't need to worry about a lot to begin with the hand. Just get in a 3D shape for that hand and call it good. You come back and you can do the details later. When you're form finding and trying to get the motion of a body, I don't want you too worried about that. If you want to connect up, you can do that. Let's see, for this one, it's going to be a twist like this since the body is twisting. So I'm going to go from this shoulder to the pivot point right there, and on the inside to the pivot point. That way you get a natural twisting of the body. Okay. And on this too, we'll drop in a 3D solenoid shape. Pivot point. Another solenoid shape. I'm starting to form those shapes though so that they fit the general shape of a calf. A calf gets large and then goes to small towards the ankle, right? You're doing a simple cylinder shape, but you can still get that tapering of the leg. That's okay to do even when you're working with the solenoid. Okay, so he's ready to Karate Kid this. Might go back in, do a little bit more head work here. Back of the skull might pop out slightly. Walk it in. Maybe do a little bit of the neck and shoulders in there. And I'm gonna leave it about like that. We could get into shading right now, but it's not really crucial or necessary. You can shade on some of the insides of the leg pieces, depending on where it's 3D'd. Okay? So moving on. Now we get to something a little bit more difficult. How do you work with a shape that's coming towards you? So first, like anything, we'll start out with that head shape and kind of get that in there like that. Anytime we have a sideways head to us, we have to include the back of the skull. The back of the skull is always going to be popping out a little bit, and then this becomes your jawline right there. So that's all you need for that. And then we need a curve to the spine. For this one, he's going to be doing a kick, but it's coming towards us, so I'm going to drop the spine in right about there. I'm going to bring the shoulder up, and if I want this shoulder closer to the viewer, I draw it bigger. See how I've taken the shape and I increase the length from here to here. This is receding, so it's smaller. This is coming towards us, so it's bigger. And then I block in the rest of it. Drop in a joint. Okay, the solenoid shape will start right there. I'll come back and finish that later. Same thing on the other side, ball joint there. And this is going to be going away from us, so notice I'm going smaller with this arm. It looks awkward at first, but this is a technique called foreshortening where things are getting smaller in the distance. Okay? That's always going to be the case, and it's the hardest thing to draw ever. When you're getting something that's coming at you or going away from you, it feels wrong to draw it as small as you really need to, but you do. We'll get the hips in here too. We're going to block the hips in like this. The hips are twisting, okay? And when they're twisting, what's that?
Did you draw this on the other side?
No. I did a ghost impression first, so I drew it out in pencil just like you guys first. Okay. So in order to get this leg to look like it's just kicking straight out towards us, the foot has to be enormous. And you know that the foot is not really bigger than the thigh or the calf, but you have to draw it that way because it's popping out at the viewer. So kind of tough to get at first, but yeah, you have to trust that that foot is going to be that much larger and coming towards us. So we'll work this in, maybe do a little bit of shading for the joint area there. And for this, okay, again, the hips are facing this way, right? So if the hips are facing this way and the shoulders are facing this way and he's in the middle of this epic twist, I have to connect the line up to the opposite shoulder. Well, it's the same side, but it's twisted, so it's going to be opposite on your paper. And go like that. And that's how I get the twist. And then pop that in there, and that'll go like that. And you're getting kind of a twisted motion out of your 3D shape. Ball joint for the hip. Another solenoid. We're going to let it taper down thinner and thinner, because they're in the middle of this flying roundhouse. All right, and the last thing that we got to do now is just finish out the arm. Super easy. Okay, notice I'm not spending a lot of time on fingers or hands or anything like that. I'm just getting the basics down and moving on. Of course, if you want to ink that head in afterwards, it's a good idea to do. Connect it up. All right. Now we need some more curvature to this. Let's go here. I'm just going to draw fast. You can watch. It's a similar technique. So, spine line first. Okay. I want to get a curvature down before I do anything. Same thing again. This side of the shoulder is going to be much more near to us. I'm going to make this elbow come out. And how am I going to do that? By increasing the size. Okay. Ball joint in this side. This arm's going to be significantly smaller. And again, I'm going to have a twist to the body here. We're going to go and make the hips about right here. So you can see a little part of his back twisting, that's fine. Okay, get the legs in there. Underside of the foot. So I find when I'm drawing figures, the longer I spend on it, the less accurate I get. The more stiff my characters look. It's a plight of the perfectionist. You just tend to want to get things absolutely perfect, but it never turns out quite that way if you're spending forever lining things up. You want to move fast to get that fluid line. And remember that you can put your people in situational positions. So in this case, give him a little backpack that used to be a parachute. Okay, couple speed lines, down he goes. All right, so 1 point perspective. 1 point perspective can be used in these just like, let me start with the red, just like any other type of, building, whatever you want to be drawing. This can apply to people too, okay? So the spine line would just be down there for this top of the shoulders. You'd be looking at the top block on it. And ball joint here. This will be getting larger as it comes towards us. Another ball joint right there. Forearm. Just kind of do a blocky fist here. Okay. Now he's doing the Superman straight towards the viewer. And same thing with the legs here. The toughest thing is when you're trying this kind of position, you have to draw the legs really, really, really tiny. That seems so wrong at first, but it's how you get that dramatic impression. This is a little stiff though. I don't particularly like this for how stiff it is. The eye line would be somewhere right about there. You know, you'd have your nose and whatnot there. That's too robotic looking. So if we're going to do a 1 point perspective, and this is 1 point, the way that we want to do this is to get a little more curvature or action out of it. So we might choose to do something more along this line. Again, I'm manipulating. I cannot stress how important manipulating that first shoulder line is. Okay, this is going to be going out kind of here, getting a little bigger. This is the basis of all comic drawing. That includes anime. Okay, we're going to tilt the hips forward on this. And draw the legs receding into the distance. And if I want this knee coming forward, I have to pop it out large. So I'm going to start with just a kind of a large ball joint. And notice that I do a little bit of a lip right around the edge each time. Draw that in. There we go. If we wanted to add a little cape, Could do that. Gotta do that. Gotta add the cape. Okay. Flowing cape. All right, lax positions. Not everything is a karate kick or a punch or falling to their imminent death. A lot of times, relaxed poses are what you're after, and we have to find what a relaxed pose looks like, and it's a slumping of the spine. It tends to come down like this, and just slide out. And in this particular case, I'm going to have this guy on the telephone here. He's just yakking away in his executive chair. Okay, this is what I was talking about with props. Props can be really important to developing your skill. Without having an object that your person has to interact with, you tend to just continue to draw stiffly. But if they have to be working with something, then you have to draw them in motion with that object. It just forces yourself to be successful at that. Otherwise, you can't fit the thing in, whatever that thing is. In this case, it's a telephone. Have them be working on the dial here. Do you guys remember what a telephone is without a cell phone? I mean, how many of you guys actually have a rotary phone or something like that in your house? 3 people? Okay. It's almost a novelty now, When I was a kid, I remember spinning rotary phones for hours at my grandparents' house, and you just turn it and it kept going back on itself. They're really cool. So for the lax position, sitting back, obviously I'm having him interact with a chair. The chair is the situational object in this case. So we'll pull that in. A little bit of shade underneath and behind. Draw fast and loose. Sketch through it. Not everything has to be perfect when you're just starting. You don't always have to draw the whole body either. In this case, I'm going to let the edge of the table cut them off. Get back in here, add the back of the head. A little bit on the maybe the nose, mouth line there. Eye line will go right about there. It's got kind of a smirk going on. Okay. And then, of course, you all remember that phones used to be connected by one of those. There you go. No way. What are you talking about? It's insane. That is correct. It is a cord. They used to get tangled around your feet while you were trying to talk, Always there. Okay, here's another standing lax position. This one is a little more natural. What you might draw your friends in this position or people at their natural state, certain level of comfort. You can get some tension out of your characters too. In this particular case, I'm going to have them hailing somebody like, "Hey, wait!" They're just coming out of a relaxed pose, and they're trying to. They weren't paying good enough attention, and now they're trying to hail a person. That doesn't mean like hail Caesar. It means to call them, like hailing a cab. Okay, you can save a lot of the shading for later. I'm going to come back and shade a lot of the joint work in. Helps give it that 3D look. Also with your calf muscles, you can do quite a bit of shading just on the edges. Gives it a 3D pop to it. All right, and for my last one, getting in action scenarios. So first we'll have to outline this. Oh yes. Okay, so you all know what this is?
Oh, yeah, it's that little thing that goes.
Tomato, tomato, Darlic, Dalek. Which is it? Okay. So I'm gonna finish this one out. You guys can begin working on your drawings. I want to encourage you to get an extreme amount of action, and at the end of your 12 figures, if you would like to exterminate your person at the end, feel free. You get the most dynamic pose that way, so have fun.
Did you just want them completely white?
Yes, paint brushes are out there. Go to town. Just be careful not to step in the paint and spread it on the cement.
I finished the bottoms of all of them.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You're awesome. Thank you for doing that without having me have to ask you while I was doing this. So, cool. Let those dry, and then we'll, after they're dry, we're gonna bring them in.
You want them here? Are they dancing or running?
Oh, you'll see.
Oh, getting shot at by the little thing you get. Morning.
Who am I? Oh.